For the past couple of months, I've been slowly building my Kirby army with polymer clay. Some of you guys have asked if I sell these pieces. Unfortunately, I don't at the moment, however, I do host giveaways every now and then. In the meantime, I wanted to start turning my Kirby mashups into stickers. That way, I could still share these creations with you guys. So I wanted to take this opportunity to show you how I make my stickers and all the tips and tricks I've learned throughout the years I've made them. I use Cricut on my Surface Go to draw out my designs. When it comes to designing the mashups, I sometimes have difficulty coming up with a design I am happy with. For instance, with this Norby mashup, I had originally drawn him as a hat like the others. And with Kirbymon, I was originally going to include his head and not just the skull. Thankfully, I was gifted this Kirby Art and Style collection book and found some perfect references for the Snorlax and Kirbymon mashups. Once I have all of my drawings done, I hide the background layer and export the file as a PNG. I'll then transfer my design file to my MacBook and upload it to a new canvas on Cricut Design Space. Here is where you can remove a background if you have one, but since I removed the background on Cricut and exported as a PNG with a transparent background, I don't have to do anything and can just click Apply and Continue. On this page, I click Flat Graphic, which is the option you need for print then cut projects. Finally, upload the image onto the canvas. Designs usually upload very large, so I size it down to make it more workable. Right now, the designs are all grouped together. So to maximize print space, I'll cut them apart so that I can move them around individually. Using a shape that can cover an individual design, I put it in the background of the image, making sure one entire design is within the shape and none of the other designs. Next, I'll select both of these images and click on the Slice tool. This tool cuts the image from the rest of the design. Once removed, I'll reattach the oval shape by selecting the two cuts and clicking the Unite tool. And just repeat for the rest of the designs until all of them are separated. You can draw your designs individually to begin with and upload them individually to avoid having to do this. But this is just how I prefer to do it. And I want to show how I separate each design on Cricut Design Space in case anyone else likes drawing multiple designs on one page like me and still want to maximize their print space. Now I'll add a square shape and change the dimensions to 6.8 by 9.3. This will act as a workable guide since Cricut will not accept anything over these dimensions. I place this underneath my design and change the color so that I can see the line work better. Here is where I'll resize the images to the dimensions that I want and play around with the placement to try to fit as many stickers as I can onto one sheet. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'll hide the square guide. Next, I'll add an offset to all the images. You can make this as thin or as thick as you'd like, but for these, I want a 0.05 inch offset. Double check to make sure none of the cuts are overlapping. You can make it any color as well. I typically like to keep the border white. Finally, select all of the images and the offset and click Flatten. This will make the Cricut only cut on the offset and not the original design. This will also keep the layout you have and not rearrange the designs when printing. Finally, we can click Make on the top right. This will show us a preview. Nothing should change. If the arrangement changed, go back and make sure everything was selected and attached appropriately. If everything looks correct, you can click Continue. This will send us to the Print and Cut settings page. Hit Send to Printer. I personally use an Epson EcoTank 3850 to print my stickers. Here, I'll turn off the bleed option because it's usually a hit or miss for me. I'll also turn on System Dialog so I can change the print settings and not just use the default settings. Sometimes the system dialog won't pop up and you need to minimize Cricut Design Space to find it. Here, I'll make sure photo matte paper is selected for media type and best is selected for quality. These are the settings I prefer for the materials I use, but I do recommend testing out prints with the printer and sticker paper you plan to use to see what settings would work best for you. I use this matte printable vinyl sticker paper. It is my current preferred sticker paper, which I'll link in the description. On the Epson, I'll select letter for paper size and premium matte for the paper type. The Epson is efficient with energy and ink. However, it does take a while to print. But I think it's worth it because the print quality is so great. Now it's time to prepare the cutting mat. Make sure the arrow is placed at the top left corner. Now I'll take my squeegee and run it over the sheet to help secure it to the mat. I use this Avery self-adhesive laminating sheet to help make the stickers water and scratch resistant. I'll then cut the laminating sheet down to fit within the black registration marks. Cricut tends to have issues reading registration marks because of the gloss sheet, leading to miscuts or not cutting at all. I also like to use these scraps to tape down the corners of the sticker sheet because, as you can see, my cutting mat isn't the newest and therefore does not stick so well. So I like to take extra precautions so that the sticker sheet doesn't lift up during the middle of a cut session and lead to miscuts. Also, it's a good way to use the scrap laminate. Finally, I'll place the laminate sheet. I like to align it starting at the bottom, since the backing is still there, so I can take my time and make sure all of my design is covered and it's still within the registration marks. Once the top of the laminate is secure, I'll pull off the rest of the backing. Using my left hand to hold onto the mat, I'll pull the backing quick and smooth, making sure to stay low and parallel to the mat. Pulling the sheet up high tends to create air bubbles. I almost never get air bubbles with this technique. I then run my squeegee over the laminating sheet to help secure it to the paper. After, I like to inspect it to make sure none of the registration marks are too close to the laminate. It might be hard to see, but this corner looks too close and I know my Cricut will have issues reading it. To avoid potential issues, I'll go ahead and remove the laminate layer with an X-Acto knife. I know it seems like I take a lot of precautionary steps, but it's only because I've experienced too many miscuts than I would like to admit. I would rather take these extra steps than waste all these supplies and time to start over. I use the Poster Board Plus setting on my Cricut for die cut stickers. Here is a good time to triple check that the arrow is on the top left and the direction of your design on your mat matches the one on your screen before loading your mat and pressing cut. All of these tips and triple checking is tedious, but trust me, miscuts are worse. Thankfully, the machine didn't have any issues reading the registration marks on the first try, so all of that extra work paid off. Since it needs to make 2 passes to fully cut through the laminate and sticker paper, it takes a couple minutes to finish cutting. Once finished, I can unload the mat. I start by removing the excess sticker paper. I'll then flip my mat over and curve it to remove the individual stickers. This technique helps the stickers pop off more easily and without curling them in the process. Finally, I'll inspect my stickers to make sure there are no miscuts or alignment issues. If there are, I'll check to see if the Cricut needs to be recalibrated or if the firmware needs to be updated. I'm so happy that I can start making these Kirby mashups available to those who enjoy them. I do hope that I can eventually offer these clay figures as well. It might not seem like it, but each of these pieces take me hours to complete, and the price I would have to sell these at to compensate for all the time I'd spend would be too much. Honestly, the first time I've ever worked with polymer clay was when I started this Kirby series, so I still feel like I have more to learn before I am comfortable selling these creations. Hopefully, with more practice, it won't take me so long to finish each piece, and with more quality tests, I'll have more confidence in the durability of my pieces. But in the meantime, I will continue to host giveaways. So with Kirby's birthday coming up, I figured it would be a great time to have another one. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And if you want to check out how I made these Kirbymon polymer clay figures, check out the video linked here. Thanks so much for watching.